The tragedy of exile, a nation lost. The world remembers World War II as a series of grand strategic movements, but for the men and women of Poland, it was an intimate, devastating tragedy. In September 1939, their country was crushed between two totalitarian giants, Hitler's Nazi Germany from the west and Stalin's Soviet Union from the east. The immediate horror lay in the east. Hundreds of thousands of Polish soldiers, officers, and intellectuals were deported, swept into the freezing, unforgiving hell of the Soviet Gulags. They were prisoners of a regime that saw them not as enemies, but as historical obstacles. They faced starvation, disease, and forced labor in Siberia and Central Asia. Yet fate took an abrupt turn in 1941. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union, Stalin, in desperate need of allies, agreed to release the Poles. An army of survivors, known as Anders' Army, or the Polish Second Corps, was born from the deepest trenches of despair. Their mission was an epic, agonizing march. They trekked thousands of miles out of the Soviet heartland, across scorching deserts and desolate mountains, toward a place of temporary sanctuary, Persia, modern-day Iran. They were an army without a nation, their bodies scarred, their spirits barely whole. All they had was a burning conviction to fight the enemy who had crushed their home. They were seeking salvation, but what they found was a miracle. Finding family, the unlikely comrade. The year was 1942. The Polish column was resting near the Iranian town of Hamadan when a young boy approached. He carried a small, whimpering creature, a Syrian brown bear cub, orphaned when hunters killed his mother. The soldiers of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, men hardened by years of war and imprisonment, were captivated. In the cub's helplessness, they saw something worth saving, something innocent and pure. They quickly bartered their precious food rations, chocolate and tinned meat, for the tiny animal. The cub couldn't eat solid food, so the soldiers, with typical wartime ingenuity, took an empty vodka bottle, filled it with diluted condensed milk, and nursed him back to health. This intimate act of care, performed by grizzled fighters, was the true start of the legend. They named him Wojtek, a profound Polish name that translates to joyful warrior. He was adopted by the company, assigned to the care of Corporal Peter Prendish, and became the unit's unofficial child. He slept in a special crate, but often snuck into tents to snuggle with the men. Wojtek didn't just boost morale, he healed a part of the soldiers' broken souls. He gave them a simple, living thing to care for, a piece of home in the middle of a global conflict. A soldier's education, man and bear. Wojtek grew rapidly, a massive Syrian brown bear, reaching over 6 feet tall on his hind legs. But he was no wild animal. He was a product of the military regiment, absorbing the customs and quirks of the 22nd Company. He learned to stand to attention and even developed a signature move. His favorite pastime was wrestling. Soldiers would line up to spar with the powerful animal, knowing that Wojtek, despite his immense strength, would never truly hurt a comrade. And like any proper soldier, Wojtek adopted a few signature habits. He loved sweets, syrups, and marmalade, but his signature treats were distinctly military. He cherished a cold bottle of beer and enjoyed cigarettes. The men would toss him a lit smoke, and Wojtek would promptly chew and swallow it, never quite grasping the concept of inhalation. But he also proved his worth. While the company was camped in Iraq, Wojtek, searching for a cool place, wandered into the locked bathhouse. Inside, he startled a man hiding there, an Arab spy who had infiltrated the compound. His scream alerted the guards, and Wojtek was credited with capturing the operative. It was a clear sign. The joyful warrior was a functional member of the unit. By early 1944, the long years in the Middle East were ending. The Polish Second Corps was ordered to make their final move to join the British forces in Italy. This was the moment of destiny. The clash of rules. Enlistment. The transport ships were being loaded in Egypt. The soldiers were eager to fight, but standing in their way was a seemingly insurmountable obstacle: British military bureaucracy. The regulations were clear and absolute. No pets or mascots were allowed on transport ships heading into the combat theater. The order was simple: Wojtek must be left behind. The men of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company were furious. This was not a pet. It was the living embodiment of their lost home, their resilience, and their fighting spirit. They threatened a mutiny. They had endured the Gulag, the desert, and the long march. They would not abandon their comrade to save a regulation. The Polish officers, recognizing the vital threat to unit morale, devised a legendary solution. They found a loophole. The rules didn't forbid a soldier. Wojtek was formally drafted into the Polish army. He was given a full service record, his own rank of private, a service number, and a paybook. It was an extraordinary act of defiance and humor. The documents were signed and sealed. The British military command had no choice but to recognize the paperwork. Private Wojtek was an officially enlisted soldier. The joyful warrior had won his battle against the pencil pushers. He walked aboard the ship with his comrades, ready for the European front. But the real war was just beginning. The Polish Second Corps was assigned the task of breaking the German stronghold at Monte Cassino, a mountainous fortress defended by the toughest troops. In the coming weeks, Private Wojtek would prove that he was not just a symbol, but a crucial element of the fighting unit. Join us in Part 2 as we witness Private Wojtek become Corporal Wojtek, earning his rank under fire on the bloodiest battlefield in Italy.